What if I told you most e-commerce brands do not fail because their product is trash? They fail because they skip all the foundations. Welcome, my name is Xavier Ansley-Black. I'm founder of The Black Wealthy, a brand I started to motivate the culture and empower individuals to basically, chase their dreams. So wearing our apparel basically means that you support being ambitious, you have a vision, a goal for yourself, and you're relentless in achieving that. Well, today, if you clicked on this video, if you're thinking about starting a brand or you already started one, I'm going over the 5 mistakes most e-commerce brand owners go through before they even start the brand. So stay tuned. We're not going over hype, we're not going over shortcuts, we're not going over anything that's just gonna get you in the pinch. We're going over a real game. So tap in, get some snacks, get some water, take some notes, and we're about to get to it. The first mistake most brand owners make is they fall in love with the idea of their brand or the product they're coming up with instead of falling in love with the customer. So you see all of these people all the time, or if you've been in these situations yourself, you came up with your product, you looked at it and say, oh, this is hard, this is tough, this is something that's definitely going to sell, but it doesn't. And that's okay. There could be other factors that go into it, but the main thing about this mistake is you have to keep your customer in mind first when you're building a brand that you want to, people to invest in. You need to be asking yourself when you make, apparel, when you come up with this lip gloss, when you want to start selling hair, if you want to start selling phone cases, who is this product for? What problem will this product solve? And how is your customer going to feel or identify as with using your product? These are all things you have to keep in mind. So when you're designing, when you're creating, when you're coming up with your mock-ups, your product, when you're getting samples and everything like that, you need to be able to clearly identify your customer. And are you presenting something that they will value and will be useful or feel good in? So don't forget this first mistake of just making dope products, but you haven't even clearly identified your customer yet. Going off, building upon thinking about your customer in mind, that leads me to the second mistake most people make. They think branding is just a logo or a website, and it's bigger than that. Keep in mind, we're still talking about the customer. We'll get into a few examples here in a second, but people, brand owners, they come up with a logo, they hurry up and, they design your website, you come up with something very creative, and you think, okay, I'm set to go. But your branding is way bigger than that. It's how people see your brand, how they visualize it, themselves using your product, wearing your product, being able to go out and essentially be a spokesperson, a word of mouth for your product and your brand. So you have to keep all of that in mind. So let's take a look at a couple of examples of brands and how they do that in their perception. So the first we're going to look at is SKIMS. So when we're looking at SKIMS, we have this nice woman here. She is a model. She's wearing, athleisure, as I call it. But you can tell she looks comfortable. She looks like she can go run errands. She looks like she can get a good workout in. Something that you could be confident in. And, let's just go to take a look at their homepage. So if you go to SKIMS, they have a nice, intro here. Kim Kardashian here and everything like that, being the face. But when you look at it, you see women being confident, you see them being creative, they're being themselves, and they're being athletic. But most of all, you can kind of get an idea of the feel that they're going for when you're wearing their brand. This is branding. It goes beyond just the logo, but how you feel or how you will basically go about your everyday life when going with the brand. I was looking at a second example, but going to Samsung. When you go to Samsung, you feel technology, innovative, right on the first click. You feel like, okay, like this is gonna make my life easier. This is something that I can incorporate into my daily life. And then I feel, with today's times advanced and everything like that. So, Samsung, if we're just looking at SKIMS, is everything that you're gonna feel when interacting with that brand. And then I'll even go to the Black Wealthy. When you go to our website, I want you to feel included. I want you to feel like you can wear this anywhere. You can, people that's wearing my brand, I've seen them wear it to the cookout. They are wearing this going out for a night out. Even going to school. Some of my models are there in high school. They go to school and they get compliments there. They wear it to church. But if you go to my brand, I want you to feel like this is something that I can represent. I can feel confident in. There's a few things, and you don't need a whole bunch of products. It's just about how you lay your foundation, which actually leads me in to my next point. So the third mistake most e-commerce brands make is they rush their launch and they forget the infrastructure. You got your logo, you got your samples, you might have some inventory or know how you're gonna get inventory, but you are skipping basically the foundations of your website. If you notice, when we were looking at SKIMS, there was a pop-up of like an email to be able to subscribe, and all of that is infrastructure. So if we go here, I'll take my brand for example. If you go to my brand, I have email subscription as well, so you can go to the bottom. I also have a pop-up where you can enter your email to get updates and exclusive offers. But another thing, and I'll click on a product, for example, I'll click on the hoodie that I'm making. But if you go here, you can see the details clearly of what you're buying and what you're getting. But even more important, you have things like care instructions, how you should care for the product, and every detail you need to feel like this. And then also what's most important, most people look at is shipping and return. So I have a shipping policy, I have a returns and exchange policy, and everything you can go about that. And I have a way of contacting, the company if you want to start that process up. So these things are called infrastructure. I even have a way of reviews. So you can leave a review on a product, build that trust. And that's basically what you're doing. You're building up the trust and the consistency first when you're going through and you're building your brand. And all of these things, sizing, customer communication is infrastructure that you have to build and think about when you're, starting your brand. It's more than just getting the product and trying to sell it. You also have to have the necessary tools and systems in place to be able to scale and keep moving your business forward. Okay, now that we've covered infrastructure, let's go on to our next mistake, number 4. So that is pricing out of fear instead of pricing out of strategy. Why is this a mistake? Because it's self-sabotage. Beginners, or even, some people that's been at it for a little while, they think, oh, I'm new, or, I'm not that known yet, so I'm just gonna price too low, to try to get more people in. You wanna price to the point that you are confident in the fact that, this is my brand, this is what I represent, this is the product that I'm putting out, and you want people to, trust it. Have you ever tried to buy something and somebody gave you a really cheap price and you didn't trust it? Because you're like, that's too cheap to be true. And it's sometimes, that's the case. So you need to price in a way that makes you feel confident in yourself, but also so people can trust you and you can build that up. So you want to price so you can support growth. You can't be able to grow your business, get more inventory, cover marketing, content, or even, put your places in other things. Like for here at the Black Wealthy, I would like to be able to give scholarships, give educational resources away, with some of the proceeds that I make. If I'm pricing too low, 1, I can't grow the brand, and 2, I definitely can't accomplish that goal that I'm looking for. So you need to price at a point that's gonna build loyalty and trust, and then you need to price at a point that is gonna, be sustainable. So that's number 4, and with that, it kind of leads us into the mistake number 5. And that is expecting sales without building trust first. Sometimes it's, you have a great product, you have everything that somebody would want, but at the same time, you haven't built that trust factor yet. I've read somewhere, you can fact check me, don't quote me, but the average consumer needs to see a brand 7 or 8 times before they click buy. And that's true. Once you see something, you're like, hey, like, this is great content, this is great marketing. But then once you start to get more familiar with it, you see more people with it on, you start to get more, acclimated to, their brand, their vision, and where they're trying to go with things, and you start to resonate with it. That's the same thing for when you're starting off and you're selling, duffel bags, if you're selling phone cases or anything like that. You have to market enough and be consistent enough to where people can trust you. That's even with myself, that goes back to, infrastructure. Yes, when you go to my website, after seeing the content that I put out and everything like that, I want you to know that you're going to get your product. I don't mess with that. As somebody that has been a sneakerhead his whole life, I pride myself in getting decent clothes. The first thing I look at is how long it's going to take me to get it. So, that's why, another shameless plug, I use ShipStation to collect my orders, to get my label printouts and everything like that. Is great for scaling your business in the long term and shipping out products, but also too, it provides that transparency. So when you click submit on your order, you place your order, one, you get a notification that the order was placed, and then 2, when it's shipped out, you will even get an email with that tracking number. And as simple as it may sound, that communication, that trust factor is broken by new starting brands all the time. So basically, that leads us into our wrap up, which is basically build your foundation first. Get your products, get your samples, create that great content, get very creative, but make sure you have all the things necessary in place as far as your shipping, your returns, your refund policies, even as simple as having, boxes or poly mailers to ship the stuff in, labels, having a label maker. These are all things that you have to think about and consider, more than just, I have this thing to sell. You have to think about scalability and also incorporate that in cost, so you can be able to, grow properly. So thanks for clicking on this video. If you stayed this long, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, any questions or any topics you want me to cover in the future. On the next video, I'm covering how to choose a product that will actually sell or people may be interested in. So stay tuned, subscribe, like I said, and join the Black Wealthy family.